Wagwan, what is going on, party people? Welcome to episode 12 of Culture 316. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan Nahisi.
Hi, it's Monique. I think it's the first time I said my government name on here.
That's the whole. Whoa. This is really a new era because this is the first time you've ever said your full government first name.
Right?
But
Please don't dox me. I just throw go. Girl Mo here. What's up, people? I'm running off my last brain cell.
oh my god, if you haven't told, this is really late for both of us. So just bear with us as we get through this episode. But if wherever you're watching from and wherever you're listening from, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, we super duper appreciate you. Be sure to give our show 5 stars because that is how we get better. That is how our show gets higher up in the ranking. So do that for us if you love us. If you're not
And we're also
gonna do
cool
that,
as
that means
shit.
you're right. I was about to say if you don't do that, you're also racist. So
Yeah.
take
Who
that
is
into
racist?
account. Yep.
Are you a Tessa? A Hulk? A Booker?
A booker. We're just gonna go right into the first segment because this is gonna be a doozy. So
Sorry.
this is actually gonna start off with something that is related to the ring, but related from outside of the ring. Uh, the biggest buzz of the wrestling world over the past month, and to be honest, in my opinion, the past year has been the Wrestling Club, led by Victor Taylor Perry. He is a New York City-based educator. This past Monday, he was able to bring a bunch of kids from his after-school wrestling program to Raw in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. He currently runs, and when I say he, I mean Victor Taylor Perry. He currently runs a after-school wrestling club program where he educates students on certain professional wrestlers, professional wrestling terms. Um, Obviously goes through like promos and different matches, and it honestly just warms my heart. Um, but I wanted to kind of get your impressions on all of this before we dive a little bit deeper into this show. Wanted your impressions on Victor Taylor Perry and the wrestling club.
I think that it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a great thing. I love when I get to see representation for my own people and
Mm,
especially for little kids because they're so impressionable. They take in a lot of what they do see on TV. And as I say many times before on the show, we didn't grow up with a lot of representation. So I like the fact that they have these amazing um, Black role models that came from all different types of classes in life. It was, and they certainly, and all the names that you mentioned that were present around the kids, they were definitely not people that had anything handed to them. They definitely worked their way up. And I feel like it does give them hope that, like they have as much of an opportunity to be living a life like that and, living their biggest hopes and dreams if they want to pursue wrestling, you
mhm,
know, and they won't be limited based off of the way that they look. So I just love that for them. I feel like it's
mhm,
very important that kids do know that and that they got to see that because again, like we didn't have that growing up. So I love
mhm,
that for them. And it probably made the talent feel wonderful to have been handpicked and selected to, like be, that image that is lasting in kids' head thinking, yeah, I want to be like Swerve. I want to be like Sasha Banks when I grow up. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
that's amazing because God, like, can you imagine just being like them being kids themselves and like never thinking that in a million years they're gonna be standing in front of a bunch of mini thumbs,
Right,
potential mini thumbs, people looking
right.
up to them, thinking that wow, like one day I want to be like you, like you give me hope that I'm gonna be just like that. Like, I love that. I love that for them. What do you think?
Uh, Definitely for starters, this just kind of warms my heart. Um,
Hmm.
I said for starters already, but one of the biggest things that I love is that it's led by a black male teacher, and black male teachers matter in the classroom and in life. So I just think that that's just so poetic. I think that when I was a kid, I wish I would have had something like this when I was a kid because I feel like what he's doing is creating a community. And he's bonding these kids together with a shared knowledge and a shared passion of pro wrestling. And, I feel like when you're a child, when you're, preteen, teenager, a lot of times your passions can be intensified or even dumbed down just based off of the community or lack thereof around you, right? It's like, I like this thing, but not everybody likes it, so I don't want to do it or get into it because, I don't see it. But now, a black boy, a black girl, can look to their left and look to their right and see people that look like them in the classroom, in their community, that like the same things that they do. And it only encourages them to dive deeper into it. I think that it's incredible, right? Like he's doing an amazing job. Obviously, you had a bunch of wrestlers from different companies, whether it's WWE or AEW, come in and kind of show love with a Sasha Banks or Swerve or Keith Lee. Um, and I think Bianca came in. I'm not completely sure, but I think it's just awesome that a lot of these black talents are lending their time, resources, energy into this because this is something very, very special. He put out a tweet not too long ago saying that while it was quite ambitious, that he has 65 kids in his wrestling club, that he wanted to bring 40 to the next WWE event in New York City. Um, and I think that, if you're a podcaster, like if you like us, if you're a podcaster, if you're black and you're anywhere in this wrestling community, we need to be doing our part in this, right? Like we didn't have this growing up, but we need to make ways so that these kids can have it all. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we all need to work together and bond together to support the wrestling club. So I don't know if we can start like a GoFundMe or something like that, but we need to do something. We need to support and we need to pour into these kids. And we need to do what we can do to make sure that these kids have the experiences that they deserve. Like it just makes my heart happy to see something like this. And I really, really hope that they continue to do this. So big shout outs to the wrestling club. I think there was one more thing that I wanted to say, but it totally skipped my mind. Oh, to the wrestlers. If you're a black wrestler, regardless of what company that you're in, you need to be investing in this. Point blank, period. WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, we all need to be supporting the wrestling club, whether it's shouting them out, giving them a retweet, a like. We need to be doing our part and we need to make sure that we're investing into these kids and into this community because it's best for business. But moving on from the wrestling club into wrestling news, all right? So, first things first, after a year away from WWE, the rumors are true. The buildup has completed, and Bray Wyatt has returned to the WWE. The buildup concluded at Extreme Rules after the Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins match in the fight pit. But this kind of brings this into question. Now that everything is kind of wrapped up, how would you rate his return?
I rate it with the same rating that I gave on Twitter that pissed off a lot of fans.
Which was
It outdid Punk's.
elaborate, talk about it.
What I love about Bray Wyatt is, as I said before, he's a great worker. You know, he has such a creative mind. Everything he does is always interesting and has you on the edge of your seat because he's very unique. He's something that we never seen before. And um what I loved about his return was it referenced the old all the way up to the most recent thing going on.
Yep.
Because the thing about Bray Wyatt is that he had so many interesting he has so many different interesting storylines, characters, and evolutions, and I just love the fact that it was all included when he had his return. Like there was references to every little bit and piece. And I'm happy that they did that because all his creations were fantastic. They just all came off underrated because of the person fucking booking him at the
Mm-hmm.
end of all of it. So I love how they, like, regardless of that he's coming back reincarnated as something else at this point in time, um they did not want you to forget that. But all I couldn't help but to think about as well amidst all of this is, yeah, I did think it was better than CM Punk's return because it felt so wholesome. It felt so
Hmm.
just right, you know? Um and considering everything that had happened with Punk, coming, and he kind of came too late for my liking. I felt like when he first came back, it took me a few to give a fuck
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted him to come back in All Out 2019, and he just chose to come back when he chose to come back, and then he blew it after a year. You know what I mean? It's like I know that when the baton gets passed to Bray, not only is it going to be magnificent because he deserves it, because
Mm-hmm.
he's just an amazing individual with a brilliant mind, that I know he's going to do something that's not only going to benefit not just himself and benefit just Hunter, but benefit the entire business and anyone else that he works with. That
Right.
this return is going to feel so wholesome. It's going to feel so worth it. And he deserves to have a lot of spotlight and have all the attention. He deserved to have like the whole entire wrestling world stop for 5 minutes and just be fixated on him. So I love that. I love that he had that moment. Some people said that the build or the return was too long and it was drawn out and it wasn't interesting. I thought it was cool as shit. I even went on Twitter and saw that they were handing out the crossword puzzles and trying to get you to
Yeah.
figure out who that it is. Like they were so invested. They had put like little details. It is not like something that they just dropped on us like in the last 3 weeks and had Boomer return. Like, no, they've been
Mm-hmm.
plotting this. And people been screen grabbing on Twitter, like seeing the glove, seeing his silhouette, seeing references of the Fiend and stuff like that. I thought it was so well done and elaborate. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how Bray Wyatt is. That's how he works. He didn't just come out and just pop pop up. It was like slowly building. Like, is it him? Is somebody else? Are they bringing back a legend? Are they bringing in someone new from a different company? We don't know. It's like
Right.
it should be him, but is he? Like his was so mysterious, and I thought it was so cool, so fun. I'm so excited. I know that with him, I'm not going to get a rinse, wash, and repeat type of bullshit with Bray. I'm excited. I'm invested. People were pissed off that I said it was better than CM Punk. I still stand on it
Mm.
because CM Punk shit just burnt out for me within a couple of weeks.
Mm.
This, I just know that with the way that this man operates, is going to be new device after new device after new device after new device. And it's just going to be amazing. So I enjoyed it. It was lit. I want to hear your take on it.
All right. So boom. I thought you was bugging at first when you said that. Like when you said that it was better than Punk's return, but I kind of agree with you now. And the reason why I agree with you is because I felt like it did a great job at encapsulating his past, his present, potentially his future. Um, Also, somebody on Twitter pointed out which I thought was just fantastic was um, there was a tribute that he included right before he came out to the late great Brody Lee. The
Yes.
light shining through the door was the same light that was behind Brody when he made his debut in AEW. And I thought that
Stop
that was
making me
just
cry.
so dope. Like the level of the attention to detail that this man has to everything that he does is so spectacular. It makes him one of the greatest superstars, in my opinion, of all time. His creative acumen, his attention to detail, his ability to integrate people into stories and then, you know, them leave the stories differently than how they came in is just absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's a great way that he adds value to this business. Um, as far as how I would rate it, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a 5 out of 5, whatever you want to give it. It was the
Better
best.
than Punk.
It was
Yes.
better than Punk because I feel like this has more storyline, like creative storyline ramifications because we don't know what's next. We knew that Punk was going to wrestle some matches and it was going to be what it was. I feel like with Bray Wyatt, it's like you don't know what's going to be in the Wyatt 6. Is it going to be, the Wyatt, another version of the Wyatt family? Is he going to integrate the Firefly Funhouse? Is like you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that that's what makes this so special. Is that he paid tribute to his past, paid tribute to where he came from, but he left you suspenseful. And so
Yes.
that's kind of my take on it, for sure. But I think that Bray Wyatt and Cody have had the best returns of this year. Um,
Oh, with hands down, hands
Hands
down. I
down.
might even put Cody's return over Punk's as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with everything
I'm
shaping out in AEW the way that it is, I think that we can put any return over Punk at this point.
I'm
But
not even saying every turn. She's like Cody's was iconic, man. Like,
yeah, that was a
goddamn,
fantastic.
I can't wait for him to come back. Like, he
I,
was a
I
return that I didn't even. I was supposed to be underwhelmed in my head. I'm like, oh, Cody Rhodes is coming over. I guess it's definitely a work. It's definitely an inside job. But
right.
no, this fucking blew me away. And I know that whatever Bray does is gonna blow me the fuck away. And just another thing with Punk, all you knew that you were gonna expect from him is that the promos are going to be fire. That's it,
And they
because
were.
he's never been like a reinventor with himself, like the way Bray's a reinventor with himself. And Punk was never like known for having like 5-star matches. His psychology is there. I'll give him that. I'm sorry, he doesn't have 5-star matches in my opinion. His promos are more interesting than his matches. I like his facial expressions and his psychology, but I don't think he's an amazing wrestler.
Him
Sorry,
and Taker was
not
a
sorry.
banger. Him and
Okay,
Taker
one
was
match.
definitely a five. I
Taker
like,
makes everyone looks good.
but I think that was. I think next to Shawn, I think that was Punk. Next to Shawn, I think that was Taker's best Mania match was with Punk. So I think that, and there were other matches that he put on that I think were great matches. His match with Del Rio in 2011 in Survivor Series for the WWE title, great match. I think that, like, Punk, a lot of, like, while we may not be on the same accord with Punk right now, I feel like Punk has a great body of work, and I do think that we do need to take that into account. There were a lot of great things that he did that were overshadowed because Survivor Series 2011, right? Like, main event, Rock and Cena versus Miz and R-Truth. WrestleMania 29, where he was arguably like the main event with him and Taker, Rock and Cena main evented the show. When he and Jericho had the match for the W title, Rock and Cena was. So there's a lot of stuff that he did that were great things,
I'm not
but
saying
it
he
was.
didn't do anything great. I'm just saying he's more interesting as a character and on promo than he is like in the ring.
Hmm.
Like, I'm more so intrigued by him speaking, his facial expressions, and what's going to happen after the match, not so much when the bell rings,
Right.
from bell to bell.
That
That's just
makes
my personal but my how I feel. But I do feel like he is impactful in his own way.
that makes
I
sense.
just That's just how I feel. But yes. What was our next topic?
The next topic was that Bray Wyatt was not the only return this past weekend. The Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, made their return to the WWE on the season premiere of Raw at the Barclays Center. They served as aid to AJ Styles in his feud against Finn Balor and the Judgment Day. One of the most interesting developments of this entire thing isn't just the return of the Good Brothers, it's the fact that Carl Anderson is the current reigning and defending never openweight champion, and where he is scheduled to defend that belt on November 5th. I think it's him versus Hikule. I'm not even going to pronounce his name. He's defending the belt on November 5th, the never openweight championship. Um, the reason why this is something of interest to me is that when Carl Anderson actually came back to the WWE, one of the first accounts to retweet that tweet was New Japan Pro Wrestling. Also, there was an image that came out with Matt Riddle today of Matt Riddle and Suzuki, I believe it was, training together. So I think that my question is, are we going to get a WWE New Japan crossover? Is this Forbidden Door 2?
Honestly, I hope so. I actually do hope so. Now, and that'll actually get me to start like paying attention more so to New Japan, because I had fell off a little bit this year with paying attention to everything that goes on. But this is new and this is exciting. But then it also makes me think, like, if they're gonna have crossovers, you know, like, how does that work for like TV time for like the
Mm,
current roster? Like, does Triple H get rid of some people to make space for them? Like, how do
mm,
you work this out in WWE land?
mm,
Because I saw some of that saw some of that as a discussion on Twitter that Triple H is going to start releasing people. I'm like, huh, because they were saying contracts are like coming up. So I'm like, what if this is all strategically planned? So they
right.
could try to bring in some talent. Maybe like they haven't made the commitment to come all the way over to the Americas, but this is their way of trying to, get them to dabble in working with WWE talent, which I still think
Hmm.
is cool. You know what I mean? Can you imagine Okada coming around to wanting to work with the WWE?
God,
He has said
that would
time and
be
time again that he
insane.
doesn't want to, but what if he came around? What if?
I, I'd
You
be
know what I
interested.
mean? Or Ibushi. I'm fucking love Ibushi. Fucking love Ibushi. Like, damn that man in his neck, but I love Ibushi. Or if I could get Jay White. Listen, if we
Jay
get
White
Jay White,
versus
I
Finn
need
Balor.
him or Edge. Just saying. Like he is like in my head like the fucking foreign version of Edge.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he gives me so much vibes of him, like just being an asshole and being an opportunist and being like desperate to do
Hmm.
whatever it takes to like get the gold. I would love to see those type of crossovers. That would be such good shit. Oh
Hmm.
my god! But again, it's like, how do you make this work? Like because I feel like if you're gonna invite all these extra people and all these extra promotions, like you're gonna have to eventually make space somehow.
Right.
So how does this work long term?
I think
You gotta
that
do.
I think that if we're talking about a WWE New Japan crossover, I think the way that you kind of go about it is the kind of the same way that AEW and New Japan went about it. I think that everybody who was on New Japan was still on New Japan's payroll. Everybody who was on AEW was on AEW's payroll, but it was just a matter of like seen as like a promotion or marketing in a way where you're going to another place to just simply promote the product. So I think that that's kind of the way
Mm-hmm.
that fiscally that it will work as far as like TV time. It would have to be centered around some form of pay-per-view in which both companies would be involved in. Now, is that possible? Yes. Do I think that this crossover is more than possible? I think absolutely. I think that like after Forbidden Door, New Japan is more willing to do business with WWE than it is AEW. And the reason why I say that is because when it came time to put the premier stars up for the program, New Japan did that and AEW didn't. Granted, AEW guys were injured, but like CM Punk wasn't there. He was the world champion. Like there were a bunch of other guys that were supposed to be there. And to be honest, everybody was waiting for a New Japan AEW show for seeing guys like a Punk and an Okada and seeing guys like a Tanahashi and, and a Kenny Omega. But it's like the show comes around and AEW guys aren't even like showing up the way that they were projected to show up. And I think that they may have rubbed New Japan the wrong way, especially because we don't know what the splits are as far as ownership of the actual content. That may have actually just been like AEW under AEW's ownership. Who
Yeah,
knows?
and that's a pain in the ass to get these people to go fly out to America and like your talent is not even there to
It's
wrestle them.
injured.
Like I
Right.
have a sour taste in my mouth too.
So I
You
think
know?
that and I feel like when we're talking about business partnerships, it's about like who can benefit the most or who can benefit, greatly from it. I think that New Japan has a lot to gain from working with WWE and vice versa. Like when we talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, we're talking about like their premier factions. Bullet Club is the most premier faction that they have. And to be honest, I like the only leaders that I'm really trying to see at this point in time are AJ, a Finn, and a Jay White because when it was time for Kenny to step up to the plate, like he was injured, you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, well, Kenny had his potential crossover opportunity and that didn't work out. So now I want to see other guys. So I think that Finn and AJ working with New Japan once again, I think that that's something that they would be intrigued about. But we'll see. I think that this is definitely possible and it should be very, very intriguing moving forward. So we shall see. We shall definitely see. I was gonna say, did you have anything else to say that you wanted to talk about, like the potential crossover of New Japan and WWE?
God, it just would have been so much cooler if certain people didn't jump ship so soon. Had they known that all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff was happening.
Imagine
Just
Cesaro still being in WWE with a New
yeah,
Japan show on the
actually that was the name
horizon.
I was gonna mention. Yeah. Or seeing Adam Cole like when he was actually important, being properly utilized. Like I was just thinking about how awesome that would be, and it's just like they have to be kicking themselves with all these changes happening, man. It's insane. But no, I don't really got anything extra to add on to that. Moving forward,
I was about to say an Undisputed Era versus a United Empire match would have been fire. But things we'll never know. But moving on, the return of Bray
mm-hmm.
Wyatt was not the only major shakeup happening in WWE prior to last week's Friday Night SmackDown. WWE announced via Variety, the magazine, that they are doing some shaking up of the commentary teams of all of the respective shows. So, amongst the most notable changes, Booker T has been added alongside Vic Joseph on the NXT commentary team. They have brought back the God, Kathy Kelly, as a backstage interviewer. Wade Barrett has been moved to Friday Night SmackDown. Samantha Irvin will be the ring announcer, with Kayla Braxton and Megan Morant serving as backstage interviewers. And on Monday Night Raw, Patrick Kelly will be sitting alongside Corey Graves. Um, so I definitely wanted to know your impressions about the shakeup of the announced teams, and like, what do you think is probably the most impactful one?
Forgot I have myself muted. But yeah. um I'll be honest, even when I have in front of my face looking at the changes on commentary, it's I'm not upset that he changed it. It's just, were these changes necessary? Like the options that we were given, are
Mm-hmm.
were they really necessary? Like no one was bad in their roles that they were in. It's just that they weren't bad, but they also weren't amazing. Like the last time I was actually interested in commentary, speaking at all, was when Morrow was involved in NXT. Now, if that's a name that Hunter could get back, and that's why he's doing all this shit, all right, like I get it. I'll accept it all. But the names that we have left, again, they're not bad. The changes aren't bad changes. It's just like, what were you getting at? Like, I don't know. Booker T being placed in NXT to me is a little bit just odd. I don't know
Mm,
why, but I can't see him calling an NXT match. Like, I think I'd be more comfortable with him being on the main roster, since that's the more sports entertainment side of things going
right.
on. I never heard Booker T speak, and I felt like when I was listening to his commentary, it was something that was like informative or really added on to the match.
Mm-hmm.
The few memories I had with him being on commentary was him being, you know, comedy. Like he's fucking
Right.
hilarious. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure y'all definitely seen the Batista's down video. He just kept yelling Batista's down for the next 10 minutes and standing over his body like he just witnessed a murder. You know what I mean? He's good for comedy relief, but I just don't understand why his placement is in NXT. Or why the females were moved, because I thought Samantha was fine where she was at. I was actually perfectly fine where Kayla Braxton's at. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a promotion or demotion for them, if they just
Mm-hmm.
asked to switch things up and keep it fresh. But I mean, again, like I won't be impressed until I see Moro or the equivalent of Moro. Because the only other commentary person that I enjoy was Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is actually really,
Really
really
good.
good. Like I almost like at first I was pissed off that he was doing commentary and that he was in the ring, but I'm like, damn, this man's just good at anything he does. Like his voice is just such like a nice convincing voice to listen to. It almost reminds me a little bit of like listening to Taz when he
Mm,
would do commentary. That's the vibe I would get when Samoa Joe talks, and it just sounds
right.
so fucking legit. Like everything that came out of his mouth, like just added to the match, came off very informative. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't. I feel like he's working his way into something with this setup, but I can't say I'm impressed, but also not like disappointed. You know what I mean? What do
Right.
you think?
So I actually really like the addition of Booker T to NXT. You know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
I see what they were trying to do. right? NXT, kind of where they're going, is kind of a reinterpretation of 2.0, right? But they still want to keep some elements of the black and gold era. Like, we don't know where Morrow is or what he's doing, but with Nigel McGuinness out of WWE, with Morrow out of WWE, you can't really rely on those voices anymore. So you might as well do something different. You might as well do something fresh. And you might as well do something new. So I like the addition of Booker T to the NXT announce table for that simple reason. It's something different. It's something fresh. We haven't heard Booker T's voice on an NXT product, and I'm very, very curious to see how that sounds, especially when you have guys like Carmelo Hayes, guys like Trick Williams. You know what I'm saying? Guys like that. I want to see what he says about them, how he's vocal about them, especially with guys like Braun Breaker. You talked about Batista's down, Batista's down. Booker has a really good strength of commenting on big guys, like talking about the bigger wrestlers, the heavyweight guys. I feel like he has a really, really animated approach to it that I'm really, really interested in seeing going forward. Now, I think that the biggest move in all of this was Wade Barrett going to SmackDown. Wade Barrett is a great heel commentator, was a great heel commentator on NXT, and I think that he's going to be huge in the coming months, considering that we're missing who? Pat McAfee. I feel like since Pat has stepped away, uh, there's definitely been a drop in entertainment value when it comes to the SmackDown commentary table that I feel like Wade will be able to bring in his own way. And the best thing about Wade being there is that if Pat decides to come back, he can fit right alongside Wade. Pat can be the face commentator, Wade can be the heel, and Michael Cole can kind of be the facilitator. And I feel like they can produce some really interesting stuff. Now, as far as I love the fact that Kathy Kelly's back. I've always loved Kathy Kelly. I don't think that anybody has ever had any problems with Kathy
I
Kelly.
forgot to comment on her. Yeah, I agree.
I was sad to see her leave. So I'm just glad that my good sis Kathy Kelly is back. And obviously with Samantha Irvin and Kayla Braxton, I'm just glad to see black women win, even the black women that don't want to acknowledge that they're black. But different story.
Wait, Kathy
Uh,
Kelly is?
no,
Or
no, no, no,
Kay?
no, no, no. I said
You want
Kayla.
Kaylee Brack?
Kayla,
I was gonna
Kayla.
say.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say.
No, 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 Kathy. I'm talking about
Kayla's funny though.
Kayla is hilarious. Kayla is hilarious. But yeah, I'm very, very interested in seeing where this goes. But yeah, I'm always down for something new, and I feel like Triple H is very much, he's still in his first 90 to 120 days as the chief content officer. So he's gonna do things to set the tone, even if it's temporary changes. It shows that he's flexible and he's willing to adapt and he's willing to try new things. And I think that that is really the most important thing in all of this. I was gonna say, did you have any other things to say about the shakeup of the commentary team in WWE?
Yeah,
Say
let it play
less.
out.
Say less.
Hmm.
Because WWE was not the only pro wrestling program to have some shakeups in the commentary and announce team space this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. Our girl, Renee Paquette, made her AEW Dynamite debut in her home country of Canada. This was AEW's first time in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and she debuted with an opening segment, ironically, with another Canadian great in Christian Cage. But I wanted to know, how do you feel like the addition of Renee to AEW is going to increase the value of the product? Do you think she's going to add value to AEW with her being on that announced team?
I just feel like anywhere Renee goes, she like she is the gold. Like she
Mm,
literally anything she touches, she makes gold. She's so likable. Everyone loves Renee. We loved her on Total Divas. We loved her as a commentator. We loved her as an interviewer. She was doing just fine, off by herself.
mm-hmm.
People followed her podcast, anything that she does. She's just a likable human being, very unbiased, very unproblematic. She's just a cool ass woman,
Right,
Like Dean is a lucky guy, fucking lucky guy,
right.
you know. Um, and I think that she adds a little bit more legitimacy. I don't think people give Renee enough credit, because she is one of the more respected women in her field of in her line of work. You know what I mean? Like you never really hear any like bad or negative reviews about Renee. but I do feel like she is a trailblazer in her own way
Mm-hmm.
for this field, because her showing up, I mean, you could get rid of a handful of people from AEW off of commentary, to be
That's a fact.
honest, and just replace that with one Renee. Like, you could drop 5 people right now and just leave a one Renee because she's that valuable.
Mm.
So I'm happy for her. Good for her. I'm very pleased to see her be back and involved with wrestling because I was a little bit scared I would never see her again after she gave birth. I thought she made up her mind, but I love that that itch came back to her and that she's doing something that makes her happy and she's alongside her husband. Of course, I would love to see her back in WWE, but I mean, why would she not want to be closer to home?
Mm.
So long as she's happy, I'm happy. Good for Renee. What do you think?
I agree with you. Shout out to the Public Enemies podcast because they said something on their Twitter that I heavily agree with, and that is that Renee Paquette, formerly known as Renee Young, is the Doris Burke of professional wrestling. If you watch NBA on ESPN, you know who Doris Burke is. She's that girl. Renee Paquette is that girl. Always has been that girl. Always will be that girl. Um, I think she really solidified herself as a top tier wrestling personality when she had her own podcast of oral sessions. Loved her podcast, loved her conversations with pretty much anyone of any company. Even the stuff that she did with John. So yeah, Renee is that girl. Like I think that, you know, she showed with oral sessions how valuable she is to the professional wrestling industry. She's one of the best interviewers, one of the best talkers. I felt like she could have been doing a lot more in WWE, but I feel like she only had, you know, a ceiling because of who was in charge. And I'm just glad that she's in a position where she can fully be herself in an environment where she feels comfortable. Also, very eager to see if she gets in the ring because that's something that she's kind of talked about briefly on her podcast. So I'm very, very interested in seeing what happens with that. But yeah, Renee's that girl.
Renee wrestling?
Renee wrestling. I want to see Renee wrestling. I would love to see a nice little cute little mixed tag, John and Renee versus somebody. I think it'd be nice. I think it'd be cool.
What would be her finisher?
The dirty deeds. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Stephanie can use the pedigree, Renee Paquette can use dirty deeds or the Death Rider or
Imagine she did
whatever.
a Canadian Destroyer on her first
That
match.
would be fire. But then again, everybody uses the Canadian Destroyer now, so I don't even know how it would be,
That's what I'm
how I would
saying.
react.
It's like it's became a move where, like, if you're a newbie and you want to prove yourself, you gotta do Canadian Destroyer.
That's a
or if
fact. Like the
or if you want to prove that you didn't lose it yet, do a
right.
Canadian
That's a
Destroyer.
fact. But I'm very
Yeah.
eager to see what she does in AEW. But moving, hold on, let me actually make sure I get my phone so that I'm not losing
Stop
track.
trying to grab your
But
Celsius.
I already took a swig of my Celsius. But as WWE continues to look towards the future, they are currently in the works of expanding their NIL program. WWE announced this past week the unveiling of their new recruitment tour, WWE Campus Rush. According to WWE, the company looks to make 8 total university visits from 5 different conferences during the fall semester, starting at the University of Mississippi and then moving on to schools such as Georgia Tech, Clemson University, Boise State University, the University of Arkansas, Ohio State University, the University of Kansas, and Penn State University in the program. And the program will conclude on Wednesday, December 7th. Now, as they move into 2023, WWE is looking to visit the University of Florida, the University of Michigan, Michigan State, the University of North Carolina, Texas A&M, the University of Oklahoma, Auburn University, the University of Illinois, which is what I'm wearing right now, and Northwestern University. So I wanted to know, do you believe that this will help or hurt WWE's search for a new crop of superstars?
I don't really believe so. I mean,
Mm,
we've seen some amazing athletes that came from great universities, or they just grew up and had a full ride, because of being involved in wrestling or whatever given sports. And I mean,
mm-hmm,
athletes are um more likely to, usually, not always, to pick up on, the art of wrestling, at
Right.
least like the physicality of it, if not the promos. I mean, I start to think of people like Brock or Kurt Angle, like they're just genetic freaks that are just happen to be built for this business. So
Right.
maybe that's what they were thinking about when they decided to make this approach. So I could see if it's coming from that, what they're going for. Do I think it's going to hurt them in any sort of way? Not really. I mean, I think that they should try checking as many avenues as possible. Because the last approach that we had, and this was through Vince and Bruce, was to look for people who had that star factor to them, a la getting someone like Nikita Leons, who was on a reality TV show and stuff like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to just specifically go just for entertainment. They did get some people from different sports. I will not forget about that. They did recruit people that came straight out of like colleges and had like massive sport backgrounds, but they were trying really hard to grab people that had like that weren't from the indies, right? That was their first approach. I believe last year or the year before that, no people that came off from the indies or were pretty much outsiders of wrestling that were trying to get into the WWE. Now they're taking a different
Right.
approach, which I can't be mad at because it's just like, where can you go wrong from there? Maybe they're trying to clean up wrestling a little bit more
Right.
by trying to grab people that are coming from colleges and they're trying to aspire to have, a career or a degree, as well as, pursue something on the sidelines like being an entertainer and being in wrestling and being an athlete as well. So I think that it's interesting. I don't want to judge it yet. I do want to see how it plays out, but I don't think that they all should like just solely get their crop of talent from here. I would hope that they're still doing things the old school way as well, and searching around from different promotions and stuff like that, or just finding people who just so happen to just fit their role. Because I think that variety is the best way to go about building a diverse community of wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm intrigued to see where this goes and what kind of talents they grab out from here. I just hope that they have personality, because I believe that if you're going to pull someone from a university and stuff like that, they're probably choosing like athletes for a reason. But do they get the sports entertainment part of WWE? Can you train these people to do that?
Right.
We don't know until it happens. What do you think?
I think that this helps them of developing a new crop of superstars. One of the things that I feel like there's multiple things about WWE that would appeal to college athletes. Number one, we do have to consider that WWE's style of professional wrestling, sports entertainment, is a young man's game. When we talk about these
Yeah.
guys being on the road 300 days a year, that takes a toll on your body, right? And you can't keep leaning towards people in their 30s, people in their 40s to do that for you. You're more likely, or,
Yeah.
from a business aspect, you want to lean towards guys who are younger, who can handle that type of schedule and that type of physicality on a nightly basis. Number two, I think that WWE is doing kind of the right thing in the sense that how many people from college make it to professional sports, right? Like that, not a lot. Like the possibility of you going from high school into college is very very slim. With a full scholarship, is very very slim. Going from NCAA into your respective professional sports, league is also very, very slim. So it's like, you get to your junior year, senior year, you may or may not think you're going to the league. And it's good to have options. It's good to be like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the league, but WWE got this thing going on. Maybe I could try this out. I'm a 21, 22-year old college student. I got the body, I got the conditioning already. Maybe it's time for me to get in front of a camera. And especially now with all these college athletes getting NIL deals, a lot of these guys are getting their reps and getting in front of a camera, being a personality and being a brand. So a lot of these guys that are probably going to get recruited and integrated into WWE system are people that are camera ready, are people that are going to be appealing and attractive to a mainstream audience. So I think that this can definitely help them as far as developing a new crop of superstars. And I'm looking at all these schools. These are major schools major conferences like Ohio State, Penn State. Like these ain't no little schools. A lot of the times, and because aren't any little schools, the athletes that they're probably going to look to recruit aren't going to be little names, right? These are probably going to be people that have a little bit of a budding following, especially with the NCAA kind of easing the restrictions on how athletes can make money. These guys are going to come with a following, and we're seeing how WWE is using Logan Paul and leveraging his following to, build momentum for a pay-per-view and crown jewels. So I feel like they're looking at the current climate of the NIL deals and using this program and really, using this as a kind of like a template for the future. So I think that this is definitely gonna help them. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it.
Okay.
You know?
No, that's actually no. I like that. I like that take very much. It's like I don't know. It's so weird. Like it's so fascinating, but it's also just so weird because you know we are going to see a whole crop a few years from now of a bunch of 18, 19, 20, 22 year olds, that are straight from here, like
Right.
this is all a whole social experiment and
Right.
we don't know how we're going to take it. Like I'm fascinated is all I really could say about it because like before it was just handpicked. You were handpicked if you came from like a university or something like that to be in this position. To see that crossover, it's like I wonder how they're also going to promote the brand of WWE moving
Mm-hmm.
forward, considering that now their names are being interlaced with schools and stuff like that. Are they trying to go for a very clean brand with this?
Mm. I don't know.
Do
That's
you
actually
think
a really good
so?
question. Well, it depends on what their target audience wants, right? Like who.
Well, if you're going for this, you're trying to you're trying to get teenagers and young adults to watch us, but now you're also bringing in schools, and schools wouldn't want to affiliate with WWE if they're doing like some, off the
Shady
walls.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm just curious to know how does the branding work if they're again they're doing business now with universities. So universities are obviously going to boast when they have a student that made it onto their TV, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously WWE is going to want to somewhat tame themselves if they're going to be working hand in hand with universities so long as they want to keep some type of deal going. But I'm
Right.
also not surprised when I think about it. I'm not also surprised because the way that they parade around Bianca, because they definitely did make it aware about how she graduated while she was in the WWE, and they see how well she worked out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as being someone that they could use for a role model. I feel like I wonder if like people like her is the reason why they kind of went about this approach. Like, they had this all-in-one athlete that didn't know a damn thing about wrestling. She's super athletic, super smart, was finishing her degree while she was in, I think, in NXT. Before she made it to the main roster, she got her
Yeah.
degree or whatever. And it's just like she became a huge inspirational success. Let's try to make
Mm-hmm.
more Biancas. You know what I mean? I wonder if that was like their path of logic. You know, I don't know.
I think so.
That's just me just thinking out loud.
I think I think so, and I think that's a great take and a great, I guess, question for WWE to kind of ask themselves is you know, who their target audience is and who they want to watch their product. So I don't know,
hmm
but while WWE is focused on that, Japan's focused on some whole new things. And in
hmm
Japan, the New Japan Pro Wrestling Company just unveiled its first ever World Television Championship. It is reported that all matches will be geared towards younger competitors, and they will also have a 15-minute match limit. And the matches are meant to be fast paced, and they are meant to take place in towns where audiences don't normally see um, championship defenses. So it's been announced that the tournament will begin on October 14th and it will conclude on January 4th at Wrestle Kingdom 17, where they will crown the inaugural World Television Champion. I wanted to know how you felt about this, and do you have any idea of who the inaugural champion should be?
I don't have an idea who the champion should be, but I think that's really cool that they're trying to work with smaller talent, and I'm very surprised that first of all, seeing New Japan in 15 minutes, it just
Yeah.
like it's just to me is unheard of.
So
I'm like looking down at the notes. I'm like, really? All their matches are like well, at least like 35 minutes to like an hour, so that's new. Kind of
mm-hmm.
exciting, and I mean, again, I would love to see new talents because um I think for the last few years we've been seeing pretty much the same faces be thrown around. Um, who won Wrestle Kingdom last year?
I don't even remember, to be honest. I
Yeah,
really don't remember.
I watched the Wrestle Kingdom before that. This one, I haven't watched recently, so I can't even tell you a champion for right now. But I love that they're trying to breed new competitors,
Mm,
and that they're trying to obviously reach out and expand their brand and expand what towns they don't normally go to.
mm.
Um, so I mean that this is very much interesting. Like everyone over here is having different social experiments. Like is the competition heating up in every single promotion? It's like
I
everyone's
think so.
working with each other and trying to, you know, get that fan's attention and that fan base's attention, but at the same
Hmm.
time they're all trying to again like do their own little experiments to see how they're going to breed top stars. And I'm very much fascinated by that more so than what ways they're going about it.
Mm.
What do you think?
I think that this is kind of New Japan's way of evolving with the wrestling industry, right? You look at a
Mm-hmm.
AEW, you look at a WWE, and you know New Japan is known. They're legendary for these 60-minute bouts, these soap operas, these super cinematic, dramatic 5-star matches. We always hear about the Omega Okada trilogy. We always hear about Shinsuke and AJ. We always hear about these very, very dense, substance filled, just jam packed with storytelling matches. But they don't have AJ anymore. They don't have Shinsuke anymore. They don't have Omega anymore. And it's like now you have to think outside the boxes. Okay, what does a New Japan Pro Wrestling company look like in 2022? They also don't have the
Okada.
Intercontinental Championship anymore. They don't have the IWGP Intercontinental title anymore because they merged it with the world title. Now it being the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So now they don't have that Intercontinental title anymore, and it's just like, okay, that's all well and good, but there's still a void. How are we going to fill this void, and what direction do we need to go in? Do we revive the Intercontinental title, or do we introduce this TV title? And I think that this TV title is a great way to kind of, do something that they've never done before and evolve. You know what I mean? This is something that they can put on, on a Wrestle Kingdom card. This is something that they can do in one of these towns that they don't normally defend the World Heavyweight title. They can bring it to the US, defend it in New Japan Strong, New Japan Strong Wrestling, which is like their US program. They now will be able to take that title possibly. They wanted to do some stuff with AEW. They can have a TV title match on AEW because, like, nobody's going to do a 60-minute IWGP heavyweight title match when, you know, they got other things that they want to do in their program too. But, 15 minutes, you can make room for that. You can make room for that. You can have a nice little 15-minute, TV title match on another program that may not be yours. So I think that this is kind of New Japan's way of creating something that can be a complementary piece if they decide that they want to work with other companies like a Impact Wrestling or AEW. But this is also something that, can set a precedent and set the course of the future for whatever's going on in their own individual company. So I'm really, really excited to see what they do with this. Um, I think that they should focus on guys that definitely have that mainstream crossover capability. And one of the guys that I think that they should be looking into is Zack Sabre Jr. Uh, Definitely one of the best pro wrestlers on the planet. Someone that a lot of guys and a lot of different companies want to work with. I heard Bryan Danielson wants to have a match with him. Can we possibly get a Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. match for the the New Japan World Television title? That is more than doable. So I think that that could possibly be their inaugural champion. But Yeah, I think this is a really, really exciting and a really, really dope time for New Japan.
Is this the guy that's? I'm sorry, I had to look him up because
You
I
good?
heard the name, but I couldn't match the face. Is he's the guy that's really good at technical wrestling?
Yes, he is.
Okay, then I've seen his match before, and I was very impressed by him. I
Mm.
think he was the first. Was he on a Wrestle Kingdom before?
Yeah,
Is
he
that
was.
why?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw his match. I think for the first time during the yeah, it was during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
or no, it wasn't during the pandemic. Was it? Whatever. It was definitely a Wrestle Kingdom, and um, this is my friend was trying to force me to watch New Japan, and I was trying to get into it, but he had to explain every little thing to me,
Right.
and like his match was like something that stood out to me. So it's funny when you said Daniel Bryan because immediately I'm like, all right, yeah, I think that's why. I saw
Right.
this guy, and all I thought about was, wow, he reminds me like wrestling technicality wise of Daniel Bryan or like Kurt Angle. And I'm just like, in a perfect world,
Right.
if Kurt was in his prime, a perfect
That would
world.
be a great match.
Yeah, yeah. Like and I only saw one match of him, but to me, it was the best fucking match out of that entire card. Like
Mm.
just wrestling wise, I was so impressed. I knew nothing about him, but he was really fucking good. So yeah, no. I'm gonna steal your answer. I want that person to win. I know. I just love that. I'm sorry. Just it came across my mind. I was just like, wait, no, I remember this guy. This guy was really awesome. Like I stand him a long time ago. I'm gonna stand him again.
I'm gonna
You
stand him again. I'm gonna
know.
re-stand him. I'm gonna stand him twice. But anywho, speaking of new things that are happening, we have a number of free agents on the market by way of Impact Wrestling. A number of talent has departed from Impact Wrestling after their marquee pay-per-view Bound for Glory. And the names that have been coming up are Maria Kanellis, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Mia Yim. They all have expiring contracts. So I wanted to know, which promotions do you want to see these wrestlers in?
There's only one person's name that I gave a fuck about on this list, and it was Mia Yim.
Mm,
It's Mia Yim because I felt like she was over in her time in WWE,
mm-hmm.
but they just didn't really know how to book her. Like even Hunter didn't know what to do with her,
Right.
and Vince especially didn't know what the fuck to do with her. They tried giving her a good shot when she was going against Bianca, and I think a lot of people actually were invested in that feud with Mia because it was the
I
most we got
was.
to see out of her personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's actually cool, she's fun. Obviously, the girl definitely knows how to reinvent herself, and she knows how to carry herself if you gave her the right storyline and feud to work with. And I felt like if they presented her just like that, the way she just was in not just like the way she was in NXT, but just like the way she's flowing right now in Impact, if you just let her had like do the same thing in WWE, she would be so over. But that whole what the fuck was the name of that terrible faction that I'm so happy
Retribution.
died off? Yes,
Retribution.
that
Yeah.
killed my poor girl off. I felt so bad for her. I felt bad for everyone involved, but
Yeah.
just I felt the most bad just for Mia because I'm just like dead on arrival, bro. Just freaking dead on arrival. Like she didn't have a chance. She never really had a proper chance. Like they threw her a bone with Bianca and they threw her another bone against Shayna, but they never like quite let her take off.
Right.
um I feel like times where they were investing in people like freaking what was that bitch's name? um 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 I I'm so mad that the internet made me think of her as Tegan Knox, but
Tegan
fucking
Knox.
Twitter
Yeah.
makes me think of Negan because her goddamn
Negan
knees.
Tox.
I'm so mad that that came to my mind before Tegan. But yes, no. I feel like the time they were investing in her, I felt like it should have just been you trying to work harder with people that had more personality like Mia. Like I liked her a lot. A lot of people liked Mia a lot. She didn't have a proper chance. And I know Triple H did like her, that he just didn't know what to do with her at the time. And I feel like
Right.
now we could use more people for the girlies to work with, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Could definitely be using like maybe more female factions to perhaps go against damage control and stuff like that. Put me
Mm-hmm.
in a better faction. She was in a faction before when she was doing Dollhouse and she was working just fine.
Yeah.
Put her in a faction here. and let her go up against like people with damage control. I don't know who. I can't name off the top of my head. If you know any people that could go well with Mia Yim in this moment in time, go right ahead and tell me. But I feel like she deserves it. Other people that you had mentioned off this list, I'm sorry. I slandered her before. I'm gonna slander her again on recording. Maria doesn't need to go anywhere. Maria needs to sit home and be a mom. Okay, she is not a good wrestler. She was good for 5 minutes as a valet. You know that little thing she was doing in New Japan. You know, flashing her little booty cheeks. You know, she was fine then. That time has passed. You know, she could stay home, taking her attempted MILF pictures online and stay in her lane. She annoys me so much when she tries super hard to push this narrative that she has this huge impactful role in wrestling because she's easily the most forgettable talent from WWE. She will not be remembered very much from Impact. If you're, and I'm sorry for all the Maria Kanellis stands, your very small society of people. I just, she did nothing. What has she accomplished? What has she realistically done for women's wrestling? I love that she pushes the idea that divas were part of the women's revolution. I love that very much because yes, the divas definitely were crawling literally on their hands and knees, barking like a dog like Trish to get to where we are right now with the women's matches that we do have. Like that, yes, Maria, completely here with you. Completely here with you. But when she acts like her roles were added to that, I'm just like, huh? Like you were a ditzy interviewer. You were a ditzy behind interviewer, and you were a crappy wrestler. And then we cared for you for 5 minutes when you were around Santino, and then that was about it. You were outside of that, she didn't do anything. So I don't know. I get irritated when I keep seeing her name and people trying to argue about putting her somewhere in wrestling because she's a non-factor anywhere she goes. I think she's just good at selling herself. But like in terms of like, you know, being like a businesswoman, like she's good at that. But in terms of like being impactful, being a trailblazer, acting like she fulfilled the roles that of what a Trish, a Lita, a Mickey James, a Victoria, um, you know, hell, I feel like even Stacy Keeler did more than her ass. I'm sorry, this has become a side rant about Maria Kanellis. It's just that she irritated me so much, y'all, when it came to that Divas Belt rant. I'm like, girl, of all people, do not get into it with Trish and Mickey. All right, that's where I draw the line here. That's
Sis
where
said,
I draw
"Hold
the
up."
line here.
Sis said, "Hold up." Now, yeah, I I damn, you really tore down Maria. But
She just
so
irritates me
you,
so
I can,
much.
I can see
Shut up.
Maria.
Shut up and be pretty. Go ahead.
I, I can, I definitely see Mia Yim in a WWE ring. I think that with Hunter being in control, I think that they can definitely find something creatively for her because Mia is so talented. As it pertains to
Yeah.
Mike and Matt and Maria, I can actually see them going to AEW. I can
Why?
I well here and let me propose this, okay? Hear me out. The reason why I think that they can go to AEW is because of the failure of the Undisputed Elite. That ship has come and gone, it has sunk, and if Adam Cole is coming back as a main eventer and you want to pair Adam Cole up with a faction, Kingdom is definitely a possibility because Adam Cole,
No.
Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, and Maria were a faction in Ring of Honor. Who owns Ring of Honor? Tony Khan. So, as far as their place, I think that they can add to the depth of the AEW tag team division. I think that them coming alongside Adam Cole will be best for the both of them. But even when, you know, Mike Bennett and Maria went to WWE, I don't think that Mike Bennett was used properly. He was just kind of stuck in 205 Live, and I think that he had the potential to be a main eventer. even possibly a U.S. champion. But I just feel like, if they're trying to try new territories and new things, I feel like I would like to see Mike, Maria, and Matt in AEW.
Their time
So
has
that,
passed.
I,
I'm
listen,
sorry. Their time has
I
passed. Like,
I
and
don't
that's okay.
look. I
Like
like
Maria
I
never had a time, but Mike, I could understand your argument just a little bit, but I feel like his stocks are so low right now. I don't think anyone's fiending for a Mike. I'm sorry.
We'll
And
see.
it's
I don't
nothing against him because I actually don't dislike Mike. I liked him the few matches that I saw him in. It's
right.
just them as a pairing. It's not gonna do anything to really benefit your company. Like I feel like there's so many other signings that Tony could be having. I mean, the nostalgia is cute for 5 minutes. I think I'm sick and tired of seeing all these callback and references in AEW. I just want to
Hmm.
see home bred talent and new creations. I'm so tired of callbacks. They're
I
fun for
feel that,
5 minutes, and it's like,
and
then
then
what
they're
do y'all
done.
do after? What do we after we do after the nostalgia act?
That
Because
makes
y'all don't
sense.
seem to know what to do after that, and then that's where everything just falls flat. So let's just
Hmm.
start new and start from the base. Maria, go home with your kids. Mike, stop. Let me get off her neck. Let me get off her neck.
I'm
Let me
like,
get off her
damn, what did
neck.
Maria do to you, bro? But nah,
I'm
I
just
definitely,
sick of
I know,
her. She gives me
I
Chelsea
understand.
Green vibes. But go on.
I was gonna say that's another rumored name as far as WWE showing interest in her. We'll talk about that the next show though. Before
I'll take
these
Chelsea
pat,
Green over that. At least she could
I
wrestle. Sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
Chelsea
Go
was.
ahead.
I think Chelsea was definitely Chelsea Green was definitely a missed opportunity by WWE. I think that she has a lot of star potential and a lot of star quality. But let me end this show before I get kicked out this damn room. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 12 of Culture 316. Once again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, put 5 stars on the show, and hopefully we will see you guys next week. Woo, 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 woo. That's my
Bye.
siren because I don't have access to the sound.